So this week we're back to ethics. We're back to on the legality. And I think where I'm really wanting to go is like we all use case studies. And how do we use those case studies and like truly teach our students? What's your thoughts?
Well, I actually, that one really resonates for me because one of the things that I have found over the years is sometimes they have a tendency of reinforcing stereotypes. So, for example, let's say, because I work in the addiction field, many times the clients in the case studies are people of color, poor, homeless, and just once I'd like to have somebody who's a Wall Street executive, et cetera, et cetera. So I think just in terms of the case studies, I think we have to be really mindful of not reinforcing a lot of the sort of stereotypes that happen. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Can I highlight it? Because I think it's so important. You're saying as a counselor educator, you have a lot of power in the case study you write. And might you provide a counter narrative just in the case study itself? I think that is such a great, that is huge. That's really great perspective there. I mean, even, this might be surprising, but I just finished teaching the spirituality class, and you'd be surprised at like the bias and the negativity that folks have. I mean, this is your research area, so you know more than I do, right? But like just to actually recognize that like one's religious tradition like could be a source of strength and could be healing for them isn't just this oppressive thing, right? And so like how might you do case studies that like actually gets them to step into that kind of framework, you know? So thank you. So huge. In the case study itself, look to provide the counter narrative. Love it.
For the ethics class, I stopped using case study from the textbook because I want something real that they can really relate with. So I use the life experiences from the insurance company, those cases that they've walked through, the processes and everything that they do. So those ones are the ones I bring into class. And what I do with the students is we look at those case studies and what is the problem? Is it clinical? Is it legal? If it is legal, you know you have to seek a lawyer to assist you with that. If it's clinical, so let's follow the ethical decision-making model and see what should be done. Where did the counselor miss it? How did they get to where they are? How did they get to where their clients are suing them and for the amount? So once we do that, then we now tell them, okay, this is an actual case, and this is the amount that was paid by the insurance company for this issue. So now you know that these are some things to look forward to. These are some things to guide against.
Thank you for bringing that up. And I just want to, for the students who are listening to this, I agree entirely with that. And I have found something which probably everyone knows about, but it's on YouTube, so it's free, right? But it's called Soft Underbelly. And my goodness, some of those stories. Now, I'm doing addiction, but they have lots of different stories. So it's listening to, storytelling, basically. The person who's doing the interview isn't a therapist, but you can really glean a lot because it's a real life experience. And I find that when I'm reading it, it's very different than when I'm actually listening to somebody. Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I feel like the thing that I'm struck by in what you said is the story piece. I think case studies are such a powerful learning tool because I think they really encapsulate the narrative, the story of the person. And so I think with that, you have to be very careful about the kinds of stories that you're crafting, especially if you're crafting fictional stories. And I can say that something that I've used AI for is help me come up with a little case vignette, which is great. And you have to be real careful because AI has a lot of biases. And like it will create the most like stereotypical client that you could ever think of, and having to do a little bit of work in how you prompt AI and whatever, and all of that. But I think it just really reinforces that piece around like there's so much power. And so I think another thing that I can think of is having, maybe if you do have something more stereotypical. So it was, I had a class work through a case that was working with an Asian American male who was in college and was struggling academically. And so like you could go really closely to like hit some stereotypes there. Mm-hmm. And so some of that was, how do we break down and not go with just our kind of bias around, oh, well, because of his cultural or his ethnic background, he must be academically driven and, then it must look like this. How do we take the time to have the cognitive flexibility to come up with, 4 alternative stories, mm-hmm. Instead of just that one? So even if you do have this, prototypical addiction client, mm-hmm. they're still an individual human. Yeah. And how do we get to that story part?
I love what you're saying, though, because this is another like little nugget here. You're saying when you read a case, like, what is the story you're telling yourself? But you're saying, okay, push yourself to now think about 3 more stories,
yeah.
like that are separate.
Yeah.
How cool. Mm-hmm. How cool. I'm like loving this dialogue because, when we started this conversation, I was like, okay, let's talk about case studies since we use them all the time. Mm-hmm. But I'm learning a ton. I'm learning, go to the real ones. Mm-hmm. Go to the real ones, because we got a lot of folks sleeping with clients, right? Is that the biggest one? Yeah. Challenge, look at the initial story you tell yourself, and then also kind of look for 4. Look to make sure that the case study doesn't reinforce things, that you provide a counter narrative. That was great dialogue, folks. I really appreciate that. Thank you.